And welcome to the latest and greatest from Step Brother Sports, part of the Hockey Podcast Network and the Bills Mafia Buffalo fan base platform. We're at episode 92. Make sure to subscribe to our socials on all platforms. For me, at CFMAZ, Johnny V, you can find him at SB the Don NHL, or you can find us on YouTube at Step Brother Sports. Like video, rate, give us a review for 5 stars, and do all those other great things you can help us with engagement. But folks, Buffalo Bills are about to start some preseason football this weekend. As we were just saying off camera, we got some on in the background with some bad Pittsburgh Steelers and bad Green Bay Packers football there to just bring in the atmosphere a little bit more. But the NHL offseason continues to be in absolute quiet mode. But the regular season is now under 50 days away for the Buffalo Sabres. But keeping a little bit more of that hockey theme and vibe going tonight, we're super thrilled to bring on tonight's guest. Who we kind of brought up a little bit last week. Had a really chance encounter, I would say, just being some of the plebeians in the last boarding group on a flight back to Rochester in June. So it was kind of a funny way that happened. But he saw my Sabres hat, which ignited a conversation about hockey. And he revealed that not only is he from the Western New York area, but he's also a former hockey player with hundreds of games of experience in the NHL, AHL, KHL, and even back to his junior days in the OHL. He's also about to embark on his next career path as a coach and mentor for TPH Academy in Nashville. They're also nationwide too, but he's down in Nashville, Tennessee. So really excited to bring on the show, Shane Prince.
Thanks, Chris. It was great to meet you in the airport there, but happy we were finally able to make this work out.
I know, obviously you're there with your lovely wife, so shout out to her as well for giving you the opportunity to hop on too. But still, it was just funny how just things like that happen sometimes. And again, when you're in the final boarding group, it's just fun. You'd be surprised sometimes the people you meet there. But anyway, Shane, super glad to have you on. I know we were talking a little bit about this off camera a moment ago. The move went okay after you were telling me some just some trying experiences getting down to Nashville.
Yeah, it was all right. I was supposed to get down here earlier, and obviously with anticipation of starting with TPH, I wanted to have a little bit of time to move in, but the closing got pushed back, as it always seems to happen that way. So the move and the start with TPH was kind of stacked on top of one another, and it's anyone who's moved before know it's a process. So you add 2 kids into the mix, and we usually kept our stuff in Russia. So this year I knew I was probably staying here, and we brought all our stuff back. So we had 8 years worth of stuff in Russia that we flew back with. It was like, I think we had 15 hockey bags that were 75 pounds each coming back.
Jeez.
That was a process in itself. Just getting back to New York, visiting family there. And then once we moved down, we had a place in Tampa that we rent out now, but all of our stuff down there was in storage units. So I ended up having to drive a U-Haul down from Rochester to Nashville, then fly to Tampa, load up another U-Haul, and drive it up to Nashville. So it was a big process.
Yeah, needless to say, a fun summer for you, nonetheless. Fun, used very sparingly there. But
a lot going on.
Yeah, but anyway, Shane. Again, just thrilled to have you on. But anytime we have a new guest on, no matter if they're a former player or someone in the media, anybody for that matter, we always love to get into our guest origins in sports. And obviously, you have a very unique perspective being a former player. So tell us about your hockey upbringing in Rochester, and also your early days in hockey, and how you ultimately got started in the juniors and the OHL. And then to that very fateful day when you were drafted by the Ottawa Senators back in 2011. So just kind of take us down memory lane a bit.
Yeah, so I grew up in Rochester, or I was born in Rochester and grew up in Spencerport, which is a suburb on the west side of Rochester. My dad pretty much had me on skates the day after I could walk. He's very passionate about hockey. He loves the game. He played it his whole life and made it up to the junior level, but he kind of lived through me and got me into it right away. And he loved being part of it. And he was pretty much my skill development coach every day. And then he was the assistant coach the co-head coach on our Syracuse Stars team, which was the main youth hockey team I played for. So when I was really young, I played in Rochester house, standard hockey. And I don't even know how old I was when I went to Syracuse, probably around maybe 10 years old, where I think my dad really took the next step, wanted to take it more serious. He partnered up with a guy named Scott Montagna, who's been huge in hockey in Syracuse. He still is. They put together a team there where, we were bottom of the barrel pretty much. We'd go to Toronto and lose 8-0. And then, the next year we'd go back and it was 6-2. And then we go back the next year and, they would squeak out a win against us 4-3. And then we ended up beating all these teams. And we ended up being the top team in the state. And we finished third in nationals a couple times, which is, for anyone who doesn't know that, it's the top 3 team in the country at that age level. So we developed a powerhouse team there. We had a lot of successful kids on that team go D1, professional, and junior after. My route was I played minor hockey in Syracuse up till I was 13 or 14. And then there was a team called Maximum, which was it was junior B. So I was only 14. So I was young, playing against 20-year-olds in Rochester. And I was having a really good season. And the junior A team in Syracuse wanted a younger guy. And I actually moved up to junior A at 14. And after that season, I was drafted by Kitchener in the OHL in the late round. I had aspirations outside of hockey my whole life, and I still did through my professional career. I have other ambitions, and I've always been good academically. So I was pretty much set on going to Princeton University, and Kitchener took me in the late round in the OHL. And back then, I know the rules are different now, but back then you could go for 48 hours without losing your eligibility because you had to choose one or the other back then. Now I think you can bounce back and forth. But
man, 48 hours, that's a lot of life decisions happening there.
Well, that's what happened to me. So I went up to Kitchener for camp, ended up, outperforming a lot of the guys. And I think the organization was surprised. And they offered me a good contract. And if I never made it professional, they were going to pay for 4 years of school anyway. So I thought, it's not going to be Princeton, but it's it's a great option. I'm 15 at the time, and I get a chance to play in front of 10,000 people in one of the best junior leagues in the world. So decided to sign with Kitchener that season. I played a full year there. Great organization. The next season, played half a year. I wasn't really getting a ton of opportunity, and kind of asked for a trade, requested a trade, and I was traded to Ottawa. And played for the 67s there for the remainder of that season. And then my third year in the OHL was my NHL draft year because I'm a late birthday. I'm a late 92. And went into the next season. We had a great team in Ottawa. We had so many great players on that team. Tyler Toffoli was on that team. Sean Monahan, Cody Ceci, Peter Mrazek, Tyler Grayovac played professional, but we had a ton of professional guys, some guys that are extremely successful in the NHL. Had a lot of fun there, did well, and then was drafted in the NHL in the second round by the Senators, which was cool because I loved Ottawa. I loved living there. The city was great. And I was drafted by the NHL team in the city where I was playing junior. So that was cool. Played 3 years in the minors after that in Binghamton, which was Ottawa's farm team. And then the fourth year, I actually got 2 games in my third year up with Ottawa. But interesting situation. When I was drafted in the second round, but I was the 4th forward taken from Ottawa that year alone. They had 3 first-round picks, took all.
That's a hell of a year.
Yes, that was a pretty stacked team, like you said.
Yeah, and to make matters worse, I went into my first year professional, and it was the lockout year. So you had all of these draft picks, and then all the guys that would have been, up on 2-way contracts that would have made the big team were now down in Binghamton too.
Totally forgot about that. That was 2012, 2013, right?
Yep. And so everybody was pushed down. I mean, our goalies that year were Robin Leonard and Ben Bishop, which ended up being 2 really good NHL goalies. Yeah. And we had so many good players on that team. So I played 3 years there. I got 2 games in my third year up with Ottawa. Did well. I had an assist on maybe my second shift, but I only played like 5 minutes in those 2 games. And then they sent me back down. And then the fourth year, I made the team out of camp. And at the trade deadline that year, I got traded to the Islanders. And I played 3 years there. Had a pretty bad ankle injury that got a little messed up with the doctors, misdiagnosed, and kind of dragged out longer than it should have. And I was in a contract year, unfortunately. So I couldn't really get the contract I wanted that offseason. And I decided to go overseas and experience the world a little bit. I actually signed in Switzerland, in Davos, the first year I went overseas, and it didn't really work out. And then I went to Russia mid-season, started in Siberia, and then that started an 8-year KHL career in Russia, which it was probably a better human experience than it was even hockey. So it opened my eyes to the world, and experience different cultures is overall just an amazing experience.
Well, the first takeaway I have is a Western New York winter probably prepared you for Siberia.
That's true.
Sure.
Yeah, we get a lot of snow in Rochester and Buffalo. I would say it's a little more Siberia, but it's definitely a lot colder. I mean, we're talking minus 30 Fahrenheit pretty much every day in the winter. So,
man,
you go outside.
Everybody knows how to drive in the snow and the ice. So,
yeah. I mean, you go outside and you'd feel your eyelashes freeze like immediately. Just everything would freeze. But it was cool.
Absolutely insane. But yeah, thanks for kind of taking us down memory lane there. We'll get a little bit more into the weeds on some of that too as we go. But some of the more interesting things I remember just talking about with you the day I met you is how you did have some connections. Obviously, got to tie in Buffalo here somehow. You did have some connections to some former Sabres. You mentioned Robin Leonard a moment ago. But in your time in Kitchener, I know when we talked, you had opportunity to cross paths with Jeff Skinner, and then obviously another higher profile name that we talked about that same night. So it was the day he got his big contract extension and traded the Capitals, Alex Tuck. And not to mention other guys too. I think we also talked Kyle Okposo you played alongside with as well on the Islanders. But what was it like playing on maybe the same team or maybe against some of those guys that were former Sabres for that matter, as you made your way up the ranks, whether it's OHL, AHL, and in the NHL. But any fun little anecdotes with maybe some of those former Sabres that you'd be willing to share to some of the Buffalo faithful tuning in that nobody would else be able to hear otherwise?
I can't really think about anything funny about those guys.
It could also be interesting or shocking if there's nothing that comes to mind immediately, because everybody knows little things about oh, Jeff Skinner was a figure skater. Oh, Alex Tuck grew up the street from Tim Connolly, little things like that. So
yeah, I mean, me and Skinner played together in Kitchener. We were extremely young. He was like the big name that year. He was the first round pick. Obviously a great player and good kid, down to earth kid. I didn't really talk to him much after I stopped playing with him in Kitchener. Some of the other guys you mentioned, I mean, Tuck's a great guy. I more recently have had communication with him and I skated with him in Syracuse for a few summers recently.
Nice.
When we were in off-season training, but he's a great guy. I've known him for a long time, since he was a kid. So I grew up playing in Syracuse, and I think he's a 96, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. So he's 4 years younger than me, but we were always at the rink at the same time for practices and stuff. So it's awesome to see how well he's done. Great player and comes from a great family. So it's good to see him be successful, sign a huge contract like that. Happy for him. Okposo, played with him in the Islanders. He's also a great, salt of the earth guy. Loved playing cards on the plane. He was one of the ringleaders of the card game, and he would keep track of the books because he's trustworthy. But no, I wouldn't be surprised if Okposo gets involved in management of a hockey team one day. He seems like that type of guy. Maybe he is already. I'm not sure where he's ended up, but yeah, I don't know. I can't really think of any funny stories off the top of my head, but all solid guys and great players.
We'd love to hear that too, just about the human side of things, because again, you guys are just nose to the grindstone on just about everything, basically 365 a year essentially. But again, just knowing that you're playing alongside people that were good humans, and I'm sure that you've probably come across plenty that just are a little bit more selfish in that regard, but it's nice to know the guys that at least put on the blue and gold for the Sabres, or even the black and red for that matter, were just some good stand-up dudes along the way as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say hockey is one of the most honest sports you can be a part of. So most of the time, the guys are solid. Obviously, every once in a while, you can run into one that might turn you the wrong way or be a little selfish about things. But I mean, those guys are all solid, and it's it's hard to find a bad guy in hockey, I'll say.
That's true. I can attest to that. I know when we grew up. Not that I don't think it was a major team, but our school team for high school was a club team, and they went to sectionals and states, living in the Buffalo suburbs. And actually one of my best friends was one of our star defensemen, and another one was they were both in Chris's grade. So he was 07, I was 06 in high school. But just remember skipping school and traveling and there was such a good group of guys to like hang out with, like you said, salt of the earth. But one thing I did want to ask you, you kind of mentioned that the whole lockout scenario. So you had all that talent being pushed down. Specifically, I want to talk about Binghamton. When you had guys like, if I did my research correct, would have been like Stone, Peugeot, Zibanejad, DaCosta, Schneider. Is there any of those guys that you were thinking like this guy's going to be like really good? Like was Mark Stone already Mark Stone, like being that IQ type guy when he was really young like that?
Yeah, I would say when I first started going to camp in Ottawa, there was a couple. I would say 3 guys that were standout. Like when you move up levels, there's moments where like you see a player go against them where it's like I haven't seen that before, or that was just different, like another level that I felt against. And I know one of my first camps I went to, Jakob Silverberg was there. And this is before he played any NHL games. And I didn't know who he was. He came from Sweden. I was kind of only familiar with North American guys. But you watched him in the first couple camps and you're like, okay, this guy can do something special. And I remember we had to fill out they'd give us like I think it was development camp, but they'd give us a paper at the end, like a questionnaire. It was like anonymous. And they would just ask like who stood out to you. And that's who I put. Him. And then Mark Stone was like, if you watch him, he's kind of like he almost looked a little awkward out there. Yeah. But when you go against him, like his hand-eye and his smarts, like it's on. I don't know if I've been on the ice with someone with a higher skill level in those categories. Like his hand-eye and his ability just to read plays. He's just so smart. And then Hoffman was just naturally gifted.
Goal scorer.
Skater, shot. Just pretty much every skill category, but that he's just Hoffman was just a natural good hockey player.
Love that. I think I read, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I read somewhere that you roomed with DaCosta. Is that right? At one point?
Yeah, DaCosta was my first professional roommate.
Nice.
So my first year in the AHL. Well, my first year in the A. So you add all those the factors that I talked about in the lockout and all the draft picks ahead of me. They didn't even give me they give you like a residency thing where it's like, okay, you're good to secure residency. I also got injured in that camp too. So I never received my residency paper. I was in the hotel across the street at a Holiday Inn for like 2 months. And then when they finally gave me my residency, like to go find an apartment, DaCosta had an open bedroom and I kind of just moved in with him.
Nice. But it works out.
Yeah. But he ended up being in the KHL, I think longer
that's where I was going with that. You guys both ended up there.
Yeah, I mean, he's super skilled. He's similar style to Stone, I would say. He's awkward. He's not fast. He's just super smart, good playmaker. But yeah, he kind of I don't know. If I was in management, I would have given him more of a crack in the NHL when he was younger.
Right.
He kind of got a short stint and then he went overseas, but he's obviously had a very successful career over there.
Absolutely. I think Chris Maz wanted to continue on with the coming up type of time in your career and ask you a question about Coach Richardson.
Yeah. So when you were obviously going through the Senators, whether you're in Binghamton and just making your way up, Luke Richardson was obviously the coach there, and it's become one of the more respected coaches in the NHL too. But what did you learn from Coach Richardson that you really still carry with you today? And would you ever necessarily, say, steal or borrow some of his coaching techniques that you're now going to be able to pay it forward with some of the young athletes coming through TPH?
Yeah, I mean, Luke, I was just talking to him last week, actually, because he coaches down in Nashville, and he's someone
That's funny.
I've chatted with him a few times over the years. He's just that type of guy. As a human, it's hard to find a better guy than Luke. And I think anyone you ask in hockey would say the same thing. I was extremely young. He coached me when I was, I think my first year pro, I was 18. So I was 18, 19, and 20 in Binghamton when he was coaching me. So I was a kid. It's funny to look back and think about what I was like at that age. You have swag and you're coming in to, make a statement and make a team. But I always tried to be likable in the room. And, Luke was someone I would have open dialogue with even at that age. I would go in and, if I felt like I should get more ice time or I should maybe a little bit different opportunity to succeed, I would go talk to him. And he's completely open. The door's always open with Luke. Doesn't matter how old or young you are. from a hockey standpoint, he's very even keel. He's not really up and down type guy where, sometimes you can get coaches where things are going good and they're way up here, and then things get bad and life's hell. He never really did that. He was kind of just flatline, which I think is a great trait to have, not only in hockey, but as a human, trying to avoid the emotional roller coasters. But Luke's, he's coaching in the NHL for a reason. He's respected. He's a great guy, just a great person. He's obviously been through a lot. It's just, he's a great guy to have a part of your team, just on and off the ice.
Hey, nothing like that, but a constant keeping you going. That's great to hear for Luke Richardson as well. Very respectable coach as well. But more into when you got to the NHL level now. So obviously you started in Ottawa, like we've talked plenty now. Then you get traded to the Islanders in 2016. But one of your really noteworthy games is that game 1 in round 2 against the Tampa Bay Lightning, where you just light up the lamp right away with a couple goals. You're going to make a lot of friends again in Buffalo, not only just being a Western New Yorker, but obviously anytime some misfortune will happen to the Tampa Bay Lightning, especially now this year after the rivalry really ignited this year between the Sabres and Lightning, like you'll make a lot of people happy knowing that you did some damage against them. So a lot of shared sports loathing here. So talk about the time now from switching to a Canadian market, then to one of the more prominent, really noteworthy American markets in the Islanders. Obviously, the Senators coming around in the 90s or later on in the life of the league. But then, switching to the Islanders. Tell the difference in the markets.
Yeah, it's Ottawa I was very familiar with because I played junior there. So I pretty much spent in my first 3 years pro, I wasn't on the Senators, but we'd have development camp every summer, and it was kind of where I was living. And I would spend like half my summer there. So I was familiar with the city. It's a good hockey city. It's smaller feel. Like it's not really like a big city. I wouldn't consider it a big city. And then a funny thing about the trade was I was in Ottawa. We were playing in Vancouver, and a bunch of the guys wanted to go to the casino and play poker or whatever. And we went there, and then the Islanders were also in town. And I think they were playing Vancouver like after us, but we ended up playing cards with them. We flew back to Ottawa, which is obviously, across North America. So it's not a close flight. Mm-hmm. So we get back to Ottawa, and then I get a call the next day. You've been traded to the Islanders. And I look, and then the Islanders call me, and they're like, "Yeah, we're in Vancouver." And I was like, "I know. I just saw those guys there." And then I got back on a plane and flew back through the night. And I will never forget it. So up to that point, I was playing fourth line in Ottawa. I wasn't getting opportunity at all. I think my average time on ice was 5.5 or 6 minutes when I got traded. But I flew there through the night. I didn't sleep a wink, and everything's new. I'm young still, right? So you're just overwhelmed. You want to make a good first impression. It's like you're meeting new people for the first time. It's just exhausting. So they had me go to the morning skate and everything. And I'm not kidding. I probably slept an hour. And they put me on the first line with Tavares.
Yeah.
That
Strome
night.
Too? And Strome.
Yeah, that night. And I didn't have my best game. Obviously, I just felt horrible. I was so jet lagged. And I think Capuano got interviewed after the game, and they're like, what do you think of Prince? He's like, well, he had a long travel, and he tried to sugarcoat it, but the next game I wasn't on the first line. So, but it was. As far as markets go, obviously New York's a different animal. Long Island's got very passionate fans. So it was going from, I would say, Ottawa's a good hockey city, but not as rabid fans as New York. New York's in all sports is a different beast.
For sure. And especially with the history of the Islanders organization, you got that dynasty they had back in the 80s, and a lot of people still expecting that to just still be around. And they've had a level of respect, of course, but I know, we shared some similar opinions about the previous GM that was with the Islanders, of course. And I know you got some hot takes on them there, but at the same time, maybe we'll steer clear of that just out of respect too, of course. But more on John Tavares. I know Sean wanted to add.
Yeah, I did have. I know it's crazy. So thank you for sharing that story. I can only imagine doing the 2 cross country flights, then having to do a morning skates. This guy's looking tired, but obviously you weren't because you gutted through it, and you're playing with the first line, Strome and Tavares. And playing with a guy first overall pick, maybe talk a little bit about, like he was a great player. Obviously, he has Buffalo ties with his uncle being famous Buffalo lacrosse player, maybe the most famous one ever in this part of town. But yeah, talk a little bit about Tavares, what made him, I guess, I'm assuming probably really easy to play with. And then a second part to that, with guys like that, the Tavares of the world, you mentioned Mark Stone, the cerebral guys, super, uber talented guys. When you watch a player, like specifically tying it back to the Sabres again, like a Thompson or a Tuck, when they take over a game, can you recognize that, like, this guy could win us the game? As far as, like, what does that look like from another player who's on the ice and sharing the ice with those type of guys?
Yeah, I mean, there's some guys you play with over your career and as you move up levels, and Tavares is one of those guys where he's just eat, sleep, and breathe hockey. He's at least when I was with him, I can only speak from the time I was with him. I've stayed in touch with him a little bit here and there over the years, but he's all he cares about is hockey. That's his main thing, and that's how it should be when you have that level of skill and ability in hockey and have a career that he's had. That's part of the reason why he takes care of his body. What he eats, what he does on the plane for recovery in between games, everything like that he did. And that's why he's still playing at a high level and producing the way he is he's that type of guy. He's not getting distracted off the ice. His main focus is hockey, and he's giving himself the best chance to succeed. You come across those guys every now and then at the highest levels, and he's one of them for me.
Yep.
So, yeah, I mean, reason why he's still getting playing time that he is, I mean, he's viewed even after, honestly, I think graciously, like, giving Austin Matthews the C after wearing it for so long in Toronto. After, I know it was very controversial when he signed with them back all those years ago, but then obviously the playoff challenges they've gone through as well, just not being able to really, like, make it to the second round or past it for that matter. But still, like, he's worn that the captain's C on his chest just with pride, obviously, because that was the team he loved growing up, Tavares. But, like, extremely respectable player. I know there was a couple people a few years ago when he was a free agent, hoping, like, maybe that one coaching connection that they had with his family member playing for the Bandits and being the coach of the Bandits as well would have some level of play or sway to him coming there. But obviously, I think he is where he'll be to finish out his career too. But obviously, a little bit more on that too. The playoff run with the Islanders, of course. You got to score 3 goals, 11 playoff games, so a hell of a thing to have on your resume as well. What do you remember most about a playoff atmosphere? And again, Buffalo fans have gotten to experience this for the first time in literally 15 years. Obviously, we watched plenty of the Sabres runs back, like 05, 06, 06, 07, arguably.
I was at those games.
Nice.
Those are fun. Yes. I mean, yeah, man, when Buffalo's got good teams, it's hard to beat that vibe and energy in the stands. I hope Buffalo deserves a championship at some point. So I was pulling for them this year. I mean, they were close, man. It's not a huge difference from where they got.
From your mouth to God's ears, man. We were at game 1 against Boston too.
It was
a crazy game.
Electric atmosphere. Obviously, a little dire for most of that game. We've said it plenty of times, but one of the best sports memories I'll ever have watching in person. But still, you got to live that on the ice. What is the difference going from regular season on the ice compared to the playoffs?
Yeah, I mean, I guess you can call it a run, but getting to the second round, that's probably the best, highlight of my career. I would say the most fun I've had, the most meaningful hockey. Yeah, it was. So the first round against Florida, they were either the second seed or the first seed. I don't remember, but we were like the 7th or 8th, but our team was solid and we knew it. And I think we had a good playoff vibe. And all the analysts, I remember they were saying, like, 4-0, 4-1 Panthers, the predictions or whatever. And we went out, we got up in game 1 early, won the game. I think we won or we lost game 2. We came home, won game 3. Then we lost the second game at home. So we went back to Florida 2-2. And then Quine scored in double overtime. And we came back home to close out the series. And I think Florida was winning with like 45 seconds left. And to go back to Tavares, and say like, guys that have the ability to win a game or whatever. I'm pretty sure he tied it with like 30 seconds left and then scored the double overtime winner it was the first playoff win for the Islanders. And I don't know how many years, 20 something years.
Wow.
So that was incredible. And we were at Barclays Center.
I was just about to ask, was it in Barclays or Nassau Coliseum? So, I mean, I imagine like quite a bit different as far as the two of them go.
Yeah, I mean, I never got to play in the Coliseum. The only years I was with the Islanders is the 3 years they were at Barclays. So that's unfortunate. But Barclays was a great venue. It just wasn't really built for hockey.
Right.
But the facility and everything was great. It was brand new, clean, awesome venue. But yeah, in that series I scored. I think it was game 3. We were down 2-0 and Florida scored again. And it would have been 3-0, but they called it. We were challenged it, and it got called back, so it was only 2-0. And then I think Franz Nielsen went out and scored. So the place it was getting like the roof of the building go off the place, right? And then I went out the next shift and scored on Luongo, and all my buddies were at that game, like family and friends and everything. So
nice.
that was electric. Yeah. So we ended up winning that game, and it was insane. That was amazing. So yeah, then Tavares won in the double overtime, and then we played Tampa next, who had an unreal team. We went out in game 1, and I have family in Tampa too, so that was like a huge series for me. I had a lot of people at those games. We go out in game 1 and jump on them right like early. I think we scored right off the bat. I didn't score the first goal, but I scored the second and third. I think we were up 3-0 or 3-1 after the first period.
Wow.
And I remember that game. We were hanging on for dear life in the third period. Like they were throwing the house at us. And Capuano got hit in the head with a puck, who was our head coach at the time, and he had to leave the game. And it was like, I think it was 4-1 when he left the bench, and he came back and it was 4-3, and they were just shelling us. And we ended up getting an empty netter to seal the game. But then we ended up losing 4 straight after that. So we lost the series 4-1. But 3 of those games were in, I think, 3 of those games were in overtime.
And those are such a coin flip.
Yeah, man. Yeah, Kucherov killed us. A couple of those games we were winning late, and he would score to tie it, and then like scored in overtime. I have to go back and look at the box score, but I know he burned us. But that series was a coin toss. It just fell their way. But I look back at that year, and like our team was so deep, and we had a legitimate chance. Like if things tipped our way, we could have won it that year, I think.
Man, but just like, again, just knowing like you had that opportunity just to like be there, your family was there. I mean, that's like the stuff like dreams are made of growing up and wanting to be like a professional too. Like that's so cool, man.
Yeah. I mean, like when you get to the end of your career, all you really have is the memories and times you've had. And like I had a blast with those guys, and the Islanders are a great group of guys. And like they kept kind of like a family there. They kept the same guys, the same core of guys together there forever. So they were like family, and I was just coming in as a new guy, and they welcomed me in and treated me great. I still keep in touch with those guys every once in a while and shoot the shit and break balls a little bit. But
sure.
Yeah. But great guys. Most of them are retired now, the guys I played with, but there's still a few kicking around.
Nice.
Yeah. But now I kind of want to talk about like your transition from playing obviously the NHL, and you had a little short stint in the AHL briefly after that. Obviously your injury unfortunately made that a bigger challenge too, but transitioning over to Europe when you played in the National League in Switzerland and then to the KHL. Ultimately, what was the biggest culture shock with that? Just because, again, it's obviously going to be like different lifestyle, different way of like living for everybody, even just how like the guys live day to day as far as their playing habits go. What would you say is the biggest thing that caught your eye right away when you moved over to Switzerland?
Yeah, I mean, well, overall, like after 8 years over there, I would say, which is going to surprise most people, I would say Switzerland is more different than the United States way of life than Russia is, actually. When I first got to Switzerland, it was like new to me. It was absolutely gorgeous, the mountains, and driving around. And I signed in Davos that year, which is like technically a ski town, which I didn't know really anything about it. I knew it was like a ski village, but I didn't realize like the whole city's closed pretty much until winter hits. So when I showed up for training camp in July, it was literally the team was there and maybe like 50 people. So there was like one grocery store that would be open till everything was closed at like 3 p.m. every day. So it was like I was out of my mind bored because I was the only North American on the team. It was my first year overseas. It was all new to me. But that's actually when me and my wife started hanging out. I was bored, and I met her the previous summer, and I was like, if you want to come out here and like hang out, I have nothing to do. Like if I wasn't at the rink, I quite literally had nothing to do. So she ended up flying out a few times, and the rest is history. But
where's your wife from, if you don't mind me asking?
New Jersey.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah.
And yeah, you met her, right? Because she was with us on the flight. Yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, so Switzerland was like, it was just boring. Like it's so gorgeous. Especially Davos was just extremely boring because of the circumstances of the city. But that season didn't really work out. The team wasn't great. And what I had in mind was my agent at the time was like, go to Switzerland, have a great year, and then come back. So pretty much it was prove to teams you're healthy and you can play and you can come back. So I went over there. The team was horrible. I wasn't doing great. I actually had a great like preseason and training camp. And then the season started and things got real and it just wasn't working out. Things weren't meshing. And I just pretty much said like, this isn't for me. We just mutually agreed to part ways. And I stayed there for like a week and I was talking, my European agent worked in Switzerland and Russia. And I was like, I'd be open to going to Russia for sure. I know it's a great league. And he ended up getting me something in Siberia, but I'm like, all right, that's a little crazy, but I guess I have no other choice, right? I'm already over here. Let's just go do it. So I didn't know this, but Novosibirsk is the big city in Siberia. So Siberia is just the region and Novosibirsk is a city. And people think Siberia, they think igloos and whatever.
Right.
Like people just living like back in time, but Novosibirsk is like glass skyscrapers and it's the third biggest city in Russia. So it's very it's a modern city.
More than one grocery store.
Yeah.
Right. No, it's a major city. I don't even know what the population is, but I know it goes Moscow, St. Pete, and then Novosibirsk. So went there. I loved the hockey. I mean, we were in the rink was now pretty much every team has a brand new state-of-the-art arena. There might be a few stragglers, but back when I joined the league 8 years ago, there's a lot of teams with like rundown old Soviet-style rinks, and Novosibirsk was one of them. And I remember I showed up the first day and I walked in and there was like this, everything was just like pretty much, the arena was pretty much crumbling to the ground. Like the entryway was just like old Soviet style. There's like an old Russian guy with security guards sitting in the seat, guarding the door, like to the dressing room. And I'm like, I obviously don't speak the language. I'm just like walking in, like nobody was there to welcome me. And I got into the room and they didn't have gear for me, like set up, which is my overall experience in the KHL is amazing. Like I've been treated great. This was just my first experience, which was odd because I was never treated like this again. So, but everything ended up working out. It was just disorganized. They didn't have gear for me for my first day. It wasn't very welcoming, but it was pretty much just like get on the ice and help the team type of thing. Mm-hmm. And they were like bottom of the barrel and they were trying to add pieces to make the playoffs. We ended up like almost pulling a miracle, but we missed by like 2 or 3 points.
Brutal.
But yeah, the city there, I mean, the support for hockey in that city was absolutely insane. I loved it. Like I loved the hockey. I loved showing up to the rink every day to play. It was just, there was no bells and whistles there. It was, you're going on the ice to play hockey. And it was amazing. We had a good group of imports. We had fun together off the ice. On the ice was great, but yeah, that was my start in Siberia. But it was good.
I have just a quick follow up. Obviously, you talked about like the lifestyle, but just like from the hockey, like the game perspective, there's always lots of talk about like North American hockey compared to like European. Now, obviously, you were at 2 different stops, so. What was it like from your perspective? Like the game style, like obviously the size of the rink is probably different, the speed, maybe the actual style of play, like more offensive versus defensive. What would you say about that?
Yeah, I think I like talking about this because I've played both sides of the fence and some people don't really understand like the quality of the hockey there. I'll talk about the Swiss hockey first. It's I would say it's fast. The young Swiss kids train hard. Their work ethic is crazy. It's hard to play in that league. It's more of like a kind of like a whack and hack. It's physical, and a lot of young kids that can skate. It's that style. Like there's obviously high skill involved too in that league. Russia, I would say, is more controlled style. It's very team based. I compare it more to like European soccer. It's like it's possession. It's there's a lot more strategy emphasized in the Russian style than even when I played in the NHL. The NHL, I would say, was like more, there's guys making so much money and on big contracts, you can't really say much to them. And it's just, it's more of, I would say it's more of a team game overseas, to be honest. To say which is better, I don't know. Obviously, the NHL has the highest skill level in the world individually. But when you're talking about team play, like the good KHL teams, you put them on the ice against NHL teams. I think it's a good game.
Right.
The NHL teams go over preseason and dress a full roster and play against the Swiss teams, and it goes like overtime. The last couple of years are like 1-goal games, and the Swiss hockey is really good, but I think overall Russia is considered better hockey than that. So I would love to see it. Just playing on both sides, I would love to see a top Russian team play an NHL team or do like a series. I know politics are probably holding that back at this point, but like,
oh sure,
I don't know. For a fan of hockey, I don't know if there'd be anything better to see than that right now, at least for me. It'd be very interesting. It's a completely different style. So,
I mean, that's great. I mean, especially just like knowing that each league has like their own almost niche in a sort of way. And like, you got to literally experience all of those. So it's again, it's just like a testament to like your resume as a player that you have all of that to like, again, to be able to share that with future athletes coming up through what you're doing with TPH. But I want to get into, this is a very unique thing you got to do is when you were playing in Belarus, specifically, just going across certain things on there, is you became a Belarusian citizen, correct?
I did.
Or
yeah.
you are one. Yeah. So you're dual citizenship. So what was that process like, being naturalized for literally another country, just like compared to somebody who would say be naturalized in the United States? Because again, like that's a very, like for many, that can be a very powerful experience for a lot.
Yeah. So it's a benefit to both sides there. So what happened was they were supposed to be hosting the World Championships that year, split between Minsk, which is the capital of Belarus, and which is a great city, by the way. We can talk about that in another topic, but it was supposed to be split between Minsk and Riga, which is in Latvia. And there was a couple of things going on. It was COVID, and there was an election issue in Belarus, which the Ice Hockey Federation didn't like. So the entire tournament ended up being played in Riga. But Belarus was trying to stack up for the World Championships. And if you go back, they hosted the World Championships years back. And you want to talk about like a spectacle hockey event, like the support for hockey there it could be unmatched, to be honest. They hosted the Worlds there. It was like the biggest party of all time. And you can watch the highlights. I think they're on YouTube, but sold out. I mean, standing room. The Minsk Arena there holds, I don't know, probably 14,000. It's a big arena. It's nice. So what they were doing was, if you hadn't played like internationally on a team, you're technically like a free agent almost on the international level. But as long as you get citizenship, you could play for that team. So I was playing, and I signed a 2-year contract in Minsk, which is in Belarus, but it's in the KHL. As far as the KHL goes, Belarusian citizens and Russian citizens are considered, or they're all considered Russian, non-imports, right? So as an import, it's hard to keep your job, essentially. So over time, having the Russian citizenship or Belarusian citizenship could help your career. So you're not taking up an import spot on a team. So you're very valuable. To be a good Russian or a non-import on the teams over there is extremely valuable, especially before the war happened, because there was a lot of Scandinavians and it was packed with high talent imports. So that benefited me, because it's kind of like on a career level, it's kind of job security a little bit. Now I have 15 spots available for me instead of just 5 or whatever. It was bouncing between 5 and 3. So on a career standpoint, it was good for me. Also, to be able to play in international hockey is incredible. Like to play in the World Championships, it doesn't really matter who it's for, and potentially the Olympics, which we almost got in 1 year. But for them, it helps the team. So they was supposed to be in Belarus, in Minsk, and they wanted the team to be good. So they did this with a few guys. Sign with us in the KHL, live here for 2 years. We'll give you the citizenship, which I think is technically on a diplomatic passport. I think Lukashenko has to sign off on it, who's the president. And so that happened, and I ended up playing for Belarus in the World Championships that year, which it kind of sucked the timing. Riga is an amazing city, so it would have been great to experience, but because of COVID, it was pretty much hotel to van to the arena, back in the van to the hotel. We weren't allowed to leave or do anything. So that was unfortunate. But great experience, like playing at that level. I know a bunch of NHL guys came and played that year too, which was cool. And then we had the Olympic qualifiers 1 year in Bratislava in Slovakia. And it was pretty much like before the tournament started, on paper, it was going to be between Belarus and Slovakia, who's going to make it. And the Olympics were in China that year. So we were in Slovakia's hometown or home country in the biggest city. And I didn't know what to expect going into this, but we outshot, I think we played Poland in the first game. We outshot them like 50-15 and we lost.
Man.
So it was like a huge, like we kind of came out of the gates like bad, and we ended up winning the rest. And then the final game was us against Slovakia. But because we blew that game, we had to win in regulation. And we were up 1-0, I think. And it ended up being 1-1 late. And we needed the win in regulation, so we pulled the goalie. Nice. And I remember I was on the half wall, shot one through traffic. Goalie had no idea where it was. It was going right in the top corner, and it hit his knob. And like I don't think anyone in the arena besides me knew like how close it was to getting in the net. But only I could see it because I had the perfect vision, like through the traffic. Hit his knob. It doesn't go in, and then they end up scoring an empty netter. But we didn't get to qualify for the Olympics. That would have been cool.
Damn.
Wow. But yeah, I mean, to play for Belarus too. I mean, I have a special place in my heart I wasn't just playing, for hockey. I actually cared about playing for those people.
You were their countrymen,
right? Like, and my first daughter was born in Minsk too, so she's got the Belarusian passport as well. So I was playing for, it meant something to put the jersey on. And just great people in Belarus. I mean, Russia too. But just the support for the hockey in Belarus. I mean, everyone in Minsk is supporting the team. I mean, especially in recent years. I don't know if you guys can go on and watch videos of their games, but it's like an NHL playoff game every regular season game there right now. It's incredible.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You wish that was around everywhere you go for anybody watching hockey for that, because there's so many like the southeastern markets. I mean, yes, there's been so many popular teams now because of Tampa, because of Florida and all their success. I mean, Carolina too, but just like, yes, them on any other day of the week, like they're wating SEC football or anything.
Or they're going to the beach. Right. Yeah. There's just other stuff to do.
I mean, the thing about like big sports here, it's very corporate too, though. Like, you're not getting a full arena filled with like rabid fans that are like, they bleed the city, In Europe, that it's more like pride in the city, and those fans are there literally to support you because you're playing for their team and their city. And I'd say it's a more passionate, I'm not comparing this to all teams. I'm just saying in general, the hockey over there, the support for the teams is like just true and genuine. It's not like corporate,
Right. It's like, I'm imagining it's probably like what you see with like soccer in Europe too. Kind of the same thing. It's just like that's what everybody's doing.
Very similar. Yep.
Match day. Yep.
Yeah, that's super cool, man. Again, like nobody'd ever like know like what that's like, just because obviously like you hear a player goes to the KHL, people normally think like, oh, you might not hear from them as much anymore, but it's fascinating to know just like how much care goes into that league, literally on the other side of the world. And there are millions of people watching it, and there are millions of people that care about it too. So it's really cool
it's
just to hear that.
It's like their NHL, like what our people here think about our NHL, their people think the KHL is that's what it is to them. They're very, and not only that, it's the top sport in Russia too. So it's like just have everywhere you go, it's a sold out arena pretty much.
I would have thought in that case, soccer, obviously for them, football would have been the case, but it's cool to hear hockey is the sport too.
I mean, I'm sure it is big, but I'm just saying as far as like arenas and attendance, it's full. I mean, they support all their sports there too. It's like here, there's a lot of good sports, but I'd say overall the hockey, just as a part of their culture, I would say is hockey's kind of the one.
Awesome. Yeah. Let's do a quick transition to get a word from our sponsor, and that would be DraftKings Sportsbook. So the DraftKings Sportsbook app is now available in all 50 states and includes all markets. So looking at a few futures odds going into this point now, if you are looking for your upcoming NFL season, as the preseason is truly kicking off with no more Hall of Fame game last week, which was a little bit more exciting than this Pittsburgh Green Bay game. But hey, our Buffalo Bills, they are plus 1,000, tied with the Baltimore Ravens at the top of the AFC for their odds to win the Super Bowl. The Rams coming in still at the best odds at plus 550 for the Super Bowl. But looking at hockey, not much has changed there, but the Panthers and Hurricanes have best odds currently at plus 650. And again, our Buffalo Sabres tied with a few teams at plus 3,000. So keep that in mind, folks, because new DraftKings customers sign up with code THPN and spend $5 to get $200 in rewards within 21 days. That's code THPN, as in our network partners, the Hockey Podcast Network, THPN, and that is in partnership with DraftKings. The crown is yours. And let's get back to talking some KHL here with Shane Prince. Obviously, you also had some leadership opportunities when you were over in the KHL. Sean, I know, want to talk a bit more about that.
Yeah. So I think I saw that at one point you were captain of the team in the KHL, correct?
Yeah, that was in Minsk.
Nice. So what does it mean, I guess, to you, in your eyes, of being a leader in a foreign country? Obviously, you talked about the language barrier is something that's very real, but so surrounded by different languages and the culture that you are kind of by necessity immersed in, what does that teach you maybe about being a leader that maybe North American hockey wouldn't, or would be a little bit different?
Yeah, so that year the coach was, so my first year in Minsk, I signed, that was the year after Novosibirsk, so in Siberia. Then that offseason I signed late in Minsk. The coach was Craig Woodcroft. His brother coached Edmonton, pretty sure that Woodcroft, but so this is Craig. That first year in Minsk, we had a horrible year. The team was underfunded. I think we were like one of the worst teams in KHL history as far as goals against. It was a miserable year, and Craig's an intense guy, if you know Craig. It just was not a pleasant year at all. And I had signed a 2-year deal at that point, like I explained about it was a 2-year deal, and I was going to get the passport, play for Belarus. That offseason, they made a lot of changes in the staff and the roster, obviously. And, they cut my salary and said, pretty much take it or leave it. You're getting the passport, which obviously is, that's not fun to hear. But I was like, you know what, whatever. And it pissed me off. And I went into camp and I had a great camp, and then the season started, and I wasn't really getting the opportunity I thought I should. Not that I don't want anything given to me, but I earned a better opportunity based on my camp. I came in with a purpose, and, Craig told me that himself. And then the season started, and I didn't think I was getting that opportunity. And, I probably went a little overboard, but I got upset. And, me and Craig kind of started off on the wrong foot, but Mikhail Grabovsky, who's my friend from the Islanders, is actually the assistant. He's from Belarus, and he was the assistant coach that year. That's actually the reason I ended up going there, was because of Grabber. Gotcha. Yeah. So Grabber kind of smoothed it over. It was a rough start, but it was pretty much, I'm going to either own this and I'm going to back it up, or I'm going to look like an asshole, So I ended up having the best season of my career, I would say. I think I was top 10 in scoring that year. In those days, Minsk was kind of like an inferior team to the Russian teams. So for them to make the playoffs, or for us to make the playoffs, was great. We obviously missed the year before by far. We finished in last place. So we ended up getting into a playoff spot. And Klinkhammer was Rob Klinkhammer. He's coaching in the AHL now. He had a long career, but he was our captain, and he got hurt midway through the season. And that's when so our season started with a blowout kind of bad start, and Craig ended up making me the captain to finish out the year and through playoffs. And me and Craig have a great relationship now that's carried on to this point. I've pretty much spoke to him every summer since. But yeah, it's so that's the story how that came about. But it's interesting how a season can start like that, but it ended up being my best season, and I ended up being a leader on the team, which was awesome.
That's amazing.
That's so cool, man. Somebody who's not originally from that place, you become one of their countrymen, and then again, you are seen as a leader. Like, again, super awesome to see that. It's just like your rise through that league too. But we would obviously be remiss to obviously not bring up the current Buffalo Sabres squad with you. Again, hey, you're a Western New York native. You went to some of those playoff games back in the day. Now you've obviously, just talking about it with you, you've been in different NHL organizations. What do you think the Sabres have to do differently to go from a talented team that made some noise this year, getting into the second round? They were a goal away from getting to the Eastern Conference Final, down to overtime in Game 7, to now that players genuinely believe they can win a Stanley Cup. So, I mean, obviously, like, again, you've been pretty busy just transitioning from going back from Russia to where you're at in Nashville. So I would understand if maybe you hadn't been super dialed in or tapped into what's going on in the NHL at this point. But from what you've seen, what you hear, and just kind of talking to people from home, what do you think the team has to do to take the next step?
Well, yeah. So one of the things that wasn't good about living overseas was I wasn't able to really watch North American sports just because of the time difference, which I love all sports. So that sucked for me. But I follow pretty much every sport, like scores and standings and who's doing what. And, I would always say, like, Buffalo's had all these high draft picks. Like, the roster looks like so solid on paper, but they just can't figure it out, And then midway through the season, I saw this starting, and I'm like, I think they finally figured it out. And sure enough, it kept going and going in the playoffs. And I'm like, now, like, from the outside looking in, it's a team where it's like you have the good young core that maybe has found or figured it out. And if they have, and you add like a couple of right pieces, you're right there for, and listen, to win a championship so hard. I played 14 years. I never really even came close at the professional level. It's just so hard. Things have to go right. You got to fall in the right spot. But I think Buffalo's got as good of a chance as anybody. But, things need to fall their way, and they need to add the right pieces. And that's where, management comes in and calculating chemistry and who they think they could add to whatever they're missing. But I mean, they're right there. So it's exciting. It's more exciting now for Buffalo fans than it has been in a long time. So
that's for sure.
15 years in the making. And again, we've talked a lot because it's been the off season now for months at this point. They're relying on a lot of young talent coming up with Yuri Kulik, Noah Oslin, and just some of the guys, to name a few, but still, like, seeing Alex Tuck go, getting paid the way he did. Like, a lot of people wish that he maybe found a way to stay, or the team had found a way to make a contract work for that matter. I mean, it's right. Jarring to wonder, like, hey, where's that scoring all going to go? But hey, Jarmo Kekalainen, he's really counting on a lot of the young talent that's coming through the rafters here. But then you got players like Zach Benson getting the lucrative extension this past offseason. He really, like, shined in the playoffs and ultimately, like, became, like, the forward he is, like, right in front of our eyes.
He's a dog.
Got that dog mentality, of course.
Yep.
But still, like, it's nice to see, just from even, like, players' points of view, thinking, like, hey, the Sabres, like, they can actually, like, do something about this now.
Yeah, you can see it coming. I mean, like, as a player, you've been in situations and teams where, like, it just comes together. It's like, I don't know, you can't predict it. You can't, it could be like a scrap in practice that brings teams together, and all of a sudden they go on a run. I don't know. It's just like, it's weird. It's like unteachable and unpredictable, and it just happens sometimes for teams. You saw it years ago when St. Louis went on.
Oh, yeah.
They were
went
like
from last to
playoffs, and you could just see it. You could just see it coming. where the momentum's starting and then everyone starts to play for one another. And I actually just heard recently from someone down here that all started with a scrap in practice too. So I don't know if there's truth to that or not, but like, yeah, you could see it with the Sabres. It just started clicking, and then everyone starts to feel good. Everyone's happy to go to the rink, and it just snowballs. And now you have like a freight train rolling. It's hard to beat that team, you know?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you this, the rumor is, we don't know, we can't like 100% confirm this, but the rumor from people that may be in the know, that cover the team more so than Chris and I do, said that it really started, like the galvanization was when a conversation was had like between Lindy Ruff, the coach, and some of the players, and one of the players stepped up and like took the heat and didn't like how Lindy was criticizing. And that's
a lot of people think it was Tage Thompson too. So
yeah. But I did want to ask this though, as a guy that's been like a good young player and it's been around a team with a lot of young guys. Chris kind of alluded to this. So we lose Tuck. We ended up trading Bo Byram, who's, you know, got number 1 D money now, and he was arguably our number 3 guy. But I mean, what's your opinion on? I think Chris did hit the nail on the head. They're really banking on, just based on the moves and like the subtractions that they've made and didn't really add pieces, to really rely on 3 guys that I think at this point are all under 21. I think one of them's 21 and the other
between 20 and 22 years old. So you got Helenius, I think he's about to turn 20 years old, but he tore it up in the World Championships.
He did.
You got Kulik, he's coming off a blood clot. Yep. And then Ostlund, who's made some noise in the NHL this year and had some really good shining moments in their series against Boston, but he was hurt pretty often this year.
He was. So like, what's your opinion on, like, have you ever been a part of a team that like was just like, hey, we're going to just interject these 3 young guys into like key roles, power play, PK, top 6 forwards? Like, how do you think that might work for them?
I mean, when it comes to management for a team like that, like, listen, I grew up in Western New York. I love the area. But when you're talking free agents and older guys, it's not necessarily a destination spot.
Sure.
So,
that's true.
You know, you factor in taxes, stuff like that. It's hard for teams like that to get, you know, cornerstone guys that are on the market. So you get stuck overpaying for certain guys to try and plug holes. And most of the time, the management gets burned on it. You know, I don't know the exact situation of Buffalo right now because I haven't followed it too closely. But you factor that in, and honestly, like, staying put with a good young core could be the best move overall as a business and organization, instead of overpaying for certain guys that might not help or actually make things worse. So
yeah,
I don't know. I'm not looking at Buffalo's roster every day, so I couldn't tell you like my exact opinion on it. But
totally fair.
I mean, the young kids coming up nowadays are great, man. Like,
it's true.
Even when I was in the league, a lot of guys that say, you know, back when I played, but it's true. Like, when I played as a young, especially skilled type player, you weren't really just getting opportunity. And now it's kind of happening. Like, the game has changed. It's more skill based, and young guys are getting more of an opportunity to make an impact. So I like to see it, to be honest. Give those guys a chance. And, you know, if they fail, they fail. You could plug the hole with somebody else. But the young talent coming up now, and I even see it in Russia, and coaches over there, like, some coaches give young guys opportunity and they do well. And it's you got to respect it, you know. So you can't really tell if this is going to be a good decision by them until the season starts and see what the results are. So, but I don't hate it based on what you said. Yeah,
I'll tell you this. I think, I'm not going to speak for Chris, but I think a lot of people that we've talked to about this exact like scenario and topic said that we would be actually willing for the Sabres to take a small step back this season for like the greater good of that young core, like growing into their roles and being good for 10 years, you know?
For sure. I mean, yeah, you don't want to waste opportunity with older guys that are overpaid that aren't going to help the process of the team, you know? And then you factor in off-ice stuff. And like we just talked about, when something happens off the ice that kind of brings the team together, and now you have that, obviously that core of guys feels good after last season, and you don't want to bring something in or someone in that could throw a wrench into that, whether it's selfishness or just someone that doesn't mesh with the guys. So, I think patience is better. Go with the young guys maybe, save some money, and then see what you need when it comes to trade deadline, if you're going to push for the playoffs or if you're going to kind of sit back and save a little money. It's obviously you want the team to succeed, but it's a business too for guys on the back end. So,
right.
Yeah.
And then, like you were saying, it's Buffalo. It's hard to become a destination. I mean, compared to the Bills, like they started winning. You got an MVP caliber quarterback. Winning fixes a lot of the issues. You're able to attract a lot more talent. So do you think if the team continues on a little bit more of an upward trajectory, like that could help alleviate some things? I know Jarmo Kekalainen was saying right away at like the start of the offseason, saying like, hey, we have a little bit more access to players waiving or being willing to waive their no movement to come to Buffalo. Do you truly think that'll be like ultimately the cure all, that you just see some continued success? And obviously like so many people were just amazed at how like the playoff atmosphere was for all the home games around here, just the buzz that it created all around. Like, do you think that will ultimately help change players' opinions of their area to like have players want to come here?
It definitely could. I mean, as a hockey player, you do want to, there's a lot of factors. And like, if I'm the best player in the world, I'm a free agent, there's a lot of factors that go in to where I decide to play, but a rabid fan base that cares about the team, that's extremely supportive when you're winning. I mean, that's definitely a factor that would be a huge plus. And you get guys that are maybe older, veterans that can help in the playoffs that haven't won yet in their career, and they'll pretty much do anything. They'll sacrifice some things to go on a team that can win. Absolutely. I think, it can't hurt. So if Buffalo stays in the mix every year, I think it's definitely more attractive to somebody that's older and wants to win than just a bottom feeder and paying the most tax in the league. So
sure. No, I mean, it's a completely reasonable thing to think about. And it's, again, like for all these years, it's just like, why would you want to come here and just be ultimately like get to robbing yourself of an opportunity?
Right. And, this is just a back end idea I had. I think the league should implement like a flat tax, kind of like average out the state tax. And if you're say you're in Florida paying no tax, and the average over the course out of all the states that the teams are in, say is like 4%, then you need to pay back to the league 4%. And
that's music to a lot of fans' ears right there. I mean, I would be all for that.
I mean, how could it not? Like that, if you want to make things fair, like an even playing field, like that's what the salary cap's for. But then you have teams that not only have great weather, but way less tax. Like for someone who's making $10 million, you're paying $800,000 less. Like you have $800,000 more in your pocket at the end of the 6-month season. It's like a no-brainer.
Right.
And it's unfair to teams like Buffalo. So if you're trying to make an even playing field, I think that's something that should at least be talked about. And then if you're on Buffalo and you're used to paying New York State 8% tax, but the average is 4%, you would get 4% back from that pool of money where the teams are that are paying no tax or whatever. So,
hey, I think that should easily be something talked about whenever the next collective bargaining is. But I mean, you would get a lot of people on board with that idea just to easily level the playing field. But we're about obviously a little over an hour into this. Shane, how are you doing on time on your set?
Oh, I'm fine. I train the kids Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then I have a 4-day weekend. So, I'll be with my kid, but I'm fine for now.
Awesome. We'll go with a few more then. Obviously, you just started your new position at TPH Academy. We talked a little bit about this off camera, but you told me the exact title of it is Total Package Hockey, correct?
Correct.
Total Package Hockey Academy. You're nationwide, and they have a lot to offer for a lot of aspiring young athletes, all across the country. So tell us more about what you want to do there, or what you will be doing there, essentially, and what you're looking forward to most in this new position.
Yeah, so it's actually a pretty cool setup. I feel like a lot of the youth hockey's gearing towards this style now. It wasn't like this when I was a kid at all. So the whole idea is it's a system where the kids can get elite training and also get the proper schooling without missing school, essentially. So there's an in-house school with a teacher. They follow the state curriculum, everything like that. It's almost like a private school. The kids actually go into the classroom. But the whole schedule is worked around their training schedule. So depending on what group you are, you have your schedule for the day. Most of the kids are on the ice twice a day and in the gym once, and then their school is kind of scheduled in around that. TPH is just a skill development company. I'm going to be the head skill guy in Nashville and mentor. So just helping develop the kids on and off the ice. And then, so we don't actually have teams, but obviously all my kids that I'm training and helping grow are on teams. So most of those kids are playing for the Junior Predators, and on weekends they're going to tournaments and they have to travel because there's not a lot of local, talent or whatever you want to call it, competition. There's good talent here, just overall competition. They have to travel to tournaments a lot. So the benefit of TPH is we got to go to Minnesota for these 4 days, instead of missing Thursday and Friday of school, they'll schedule that week to make sure they get all the proper education in before that tournament starts. So it's like a private school where the whole schedule is built in for you to be an elite athlete. And yeah, it's kind of new to me. I've just been learning the ropes recently. I know there was something similar up in Rochester that started a few years ago. So I'm familiar with the idea, but I'm learning the ins and outs pretty much this week. Yeah.
Very, very cool. I'm just out of curiosity, what are like the age groups of kids that can do it? And how many locations are there like across the country in a similar model in Nashville?
Oh man, there's got to be around 20, I would say, around the country. I know it's on the website. I don't know the exact number. Could be more than that. What was the other question? Sorry.
What's the age group of the kids?
Oh, the age group. I don't know if there's like rules in place. Again, I'm still learning like the back end business side of it. But as far as the kids I'm coaching on the ice, we have boys and girls. I would say from like 7 years old, maybe 6, up into 18. Nice. So it's like a full spectrum and the kids are obviously grouped with their age group. So that's, they're getting the proper training. That's awesome. It's a pretty cool setup.
Yeah. Again, that's not something like, my day job's a school teacher. So hearing something like that and knowing that like there is some level of continuity for a kid who's going to be basically not I don't want to use the phrase groomed per se, but just like basically being trained and designated to like be like, hey, you're going to be a hockey player who can really make some noise as long as you're putting your nose to the grindstone, obviously on the ice. But you also need to make sure you're doing your part off the ice too, just hitting the books and making sure that you're accountable as a student too, because I'm sure there's some carryover to that as well. Like if you're not doing what you should be doing or performing up to par at that level, I'm sure there is going to have some level of repercussion for them to have a result on the ice.
Yeah, there's a certain level. If there are a certain amount of assignments behind, they can't step on the ice, like period. There's no leniency with that. So, and it's the lady who runs the schooling system was a school teacher for 25 years, and now she's doing this private school. So she's got everything in order. It's very structured. It's not like I'm going to show up now, or it's like it's strict. So the kids are in good hands. The kids have every tool they need to become successful. So it's essentially up to them to care enough and put the right work in, follow instruction, and they have pretty much everything. They have a way better opportunity than I had, Right. So
sure.
Yeah.
It's really cool to hear. Not only that, like you're giving back to the kids that are like hopefully become like what you became, just a professional player in that regard. But like, again, they're being held accountable in the classroom too. I think that's a great thing that I feel like if more schools for students like this that are like trying to pursue professional sports and like maybe playing at the college level, or again, just using hockey as an example, like if you're going to try and get into junior leagues like the OHL or making your way to the AHL, getting drafted, things like that. Like a model like this, I feel like it's pretty cool to see. And again, like you were saying, it probably wasn't there 10, 15 years ago for other people.
When I say it's better opportunity than I had, I had great opportunity. Obviously, my dad gave me every chance to succeed, but I'm just saying they have everything in one spot. Like It's all in the same area. It's their gyms in the rink. They have all the resources and people around them to be successful. They don't have to travel for it, essentially. Like for me to find good stuff, I was all over. Like I was living in Rochester and going to Syracuse to play and making the commute. and then finding skill training on the side. And here it's like all in one spot. The school is built around it. You're not doing like I was doing all my homework in the car on the way to Syracuse, you know.
Right.
So
That's a tough way to live, especially as a kid too.
Yeah, well, for my dad too, you know, he was working nights, so he was driving me there, coaching me, and then driving back, going right to work all night, and then doing it again the next day. So,
right,
yeah, it's cool. It's a different system, but I think it's a great setup for the kids.
Yeah, no, super cool to hear. Just wrapping things up a bit now, and now that you're back in North America, you're able to maybe pay attention to more just of like your average everyday sports, whether it's NHL, of course, NFL for football, any sport for that matter. I said you're a big sports guy for that matter. Are you a Bills and Sabres fan at your core, or have you kind of gone elsewhere in your fandom now that you're obviously separated from the league a bit? Who would you ultimately say that you typically pull for at this point in time?
I will say I'm not like overly passionate about individual sports teams.
Mm-hmm.
If someone said like, "Are you rooting for the Bills?" Yeah, I would root for the Bills, of course.
Sure.
Would I root for the Sabres? Yeah, like that's not my hometown, but technically my hometown team, like closest to where I grew up and the teams I followed. But I'm not like diehard. Like I'm going to lose sleep if the Bills don't win the Super Bowl, you know.
Sure, or like
I'm definitely pulling. I'm definitely pulling for them, and mainly because the fan base is so strong there that they deserve a championship. It's just like I said earlier, you know, I really do pull for them, but I'm not like a passionate diehard fan by any means. I'm an overall sports fan.
That's fair. Like you're a sports watcher of sorts, and I'm sure like in the same case, like if the Senators were playing, like, oh yeah, I'll check this out, or the Islanders were playing, you probably feel the same way, of course, too, just because you had some true skin in the game with that more than anybody. So like, I'm always curious, just because like any former players, like you might be like somebody, or you might find a player that played for the same team their entire career, and then they might like not want anything to do with it, or want to be completely separate, or just want to like have an entirely different life after they're done playing for that regard. I mean, so you'll be a sports enjoyer of sorts as opposed to somebody like dialed in on every game.
Right. Yeah, that's what I would consider. But I'm excited to be back in the States and be able to have a like Sunday football day and stuff. Those are like, you know, those are things I've missed for 8 years. Like just the feeling of fall here and being able to sit there on Sunday and just watch football. It's just like a cultural thing that's really unmatched anywhere in the world.
Nice.
You know, there's positives and negatives everywhere, but that's one of the negatives for my time over there. I wasn't able to do that for a while. So I'm excited about that.
As you should be, man. I mean, it's like you said, it's a cultural thing. And hey, you're in SEC country, man. You got Vanderbilt, you got the Tennessee Volunteers up in your neck of the woods. I mean, heck, if you're just following pro sports teams in your areas, you got the Preds, you got the Tennessee Titans down there. Yeah. I mean, you're not too far away from the Memphis Grizzlies either. You're in a pretty good hotbed right there as well. So nice that you'll be able to be fully embedded back into that once more. But
yeah, it's nice.
Yeah, but Shane, as we're wrapping things up, we got just over 400 viewers across all our platforms here. So thanks to everybody for tuning in and seeing here what Shane has to say. And ultimately, Shane, thank you for really taking us down not only memory lane with your playing career, but just like giving us your insights on just like what it's like to play just across the world, just like your experiences with just other players, especially really some true noteworthy players in hockey as well. So it was a real big pleasure, man. Really appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, it's enjoyable for me, you know, like I've been in the mix for so long and just consumed by playing, and you know, to be on the outside, it's kind of fun to look back and talk about it now. It's more enjoyable, I'll say.
I can only imagine. Yeah.
Shane, have you been on a pod before? It's your first time?
No, it's like first I would say podcast show like this. I'm kind of off the grid when it comes to media stuff.
I was just about to bring up when you and I were texting the other day. I was like, "Hey, do you got any socials we can use to like help promote you in this regard?" Like, nah, man, nothing. And like honestly, like I was telling you, respect. That is a hard skill to have in this day and age.
That stuff can just consume you, you know. And I didn't even have a smartphone for 2 years. I had like a Chinese like click button phone. Man. So anyone that knows me saw that. So I was just completely off the grid. It was either like call, text me, or that's it.
Yeah.
So, and it's just, I don't know, you just feel healthier, man.
Yeah.
Instead of like going on road trips and sitting in bed for 4 hours scrolling on my phone, I bring a book. I have nothing I don't even have a screen to look at. So,
hey,
just, I don't know.
Mad respect to that.
And now, obviously, with like working, I do have a smartphone now because I need to connect with more people. But like when I was playing, it was just, I mean, what a difference. But I haven't had social media in like 5 years. Nothing.
Hey, you made it this long. You might as well stay off of it.
Yeah. But no, I enjoy getting on.
And a curse.
Yeah, I enjoy getting on and talking to you guys, and I would be happy to do more podcasts. But
hell yeah, we'd love to have you on.
You're an awesome guest.
Yeah, that's fine. Thanks. As far as tagging me and stuff, there's nothing to tag.
There you go.
Yeah.
We'll let the man live his life off the grid here, folks. So for all of you folks tuning in, we really appreciate it as always. Again, like we talked about at the beginning of the show, NFL preseason is in full swing now. Obviously, not the most exciting football, but if you're somebody who's really looking to see on all facets of the roster, whether it be for the Bills or for other teams, hey, this might be the time for you. But we'll return with a more Bills-centric focus next week. We'll host Daryl Russell. So we had the opportunity to meet Daryl back at the NFL draft, but he is the International Bills Fan of the Year. He got to have his moment on the draft theater in Pittsburgh, announcing a pick and making sure all of Western New York was heard loud and proud there. So we'll get into all things Bills, revisiting Daryl's moment, as well as previewing the upcoming season too. So, Shawnee, have you any parting thoughts?
No, it was great to hang out with Shane for a little bit. Gave us over an hour. My man, we appreciate you.
Yeah, anytime. Chris, it was great to meet you at the airport. Thanks for getting me on. Happy we were able to make it work out. Yeah.
It's funny how things work like that, huh?
Yeah.
So, but again, Shane, really appreciate the time. Folks, thank you for tuning in. And as always from us, let's go Buffalo.
Let's go Buffalo.